The New Year's Eve celebration was anticipated to be a warm, intimate family gathering until the husband decided to publicly humiliate his wife in front of all the guests. He rose from the table and declared loudly, quote, 0. The mother-in-law smirked with satisfaction, relishing her daughter-in-law's embarrassment. However, she hadn't expected the young woman's mother to stand up and say, "Son-in-law, perhaps your mother would prefer to tell everyone about the brothel she was recently fired from." Hello, dear listeners. It's a pleasure to welcome you to my channel. I'm delighted to present a new and captivating story. Enjoy the listen. Ksenia awoke on New Year's morning with a heavy heart. The sky outside was still dim, and the thought of the evening ahead already occupied her mind. This was the first time they were celebrating the holiday in their own home. The guests were Ksenia and Oleg, her mother Lyudmila, his mother Zoya Makarovna, and Oleg's younger sister Nastya with her family. Their apartment was a cozy 2-bedroom, a bit cramped, but theirs. They had purchased it with a joint mortgage 2 years prior, before the wedding. More accurately, Ksenia contributed almost all the funds. $300,000 accumulated over years of work at the bank, while Oleg added $100,000. The rest was a loan for 30 years. Ksenia had been bustling around the kitchen all morning, preparing salads and roasting a duck. Oleg had been lounging on the sofa, scrolling through his phone. At 1 o'clock, she asked him to at least set the table. He nodded, not looking up from his screen. At 2 o'clock, she repeated her request, more sharply. He sighed, got up, took a tablecloth from the cupboard, tossed it onto the table, and returned to the sofa. "Oleg, are you serious?" "What? I set the table." Ksenia bit her lip. She didn't want to argue before the holiday. She arranged the plates herself, laid out the cutlery, and ironed the napkins. At 4 o'clock, Lyudmila called to say she was on her way. At 4:30, Zoya Makarovna arrived, so insistent with her ringing of the doorbell, as if there were a fire, even before the door could be opened. "Oh, Ksyusha, were you sleeping?" was the first thing her mother-in-law blurted out, surveying Ksenia's home attire. A strand of Ksenia's hair clung to her forehead, and her apron bore stains from beetroot juice. She silently stepped aside, letting Zoya Makarovna into the hallway. The latter dropped her fur coat into her daughter-in-law's hands, went into the living room, and surveyed the table. Underscore, quote, _5, underscore Ksenia, replied evenly, hanging up the coat, quote 6. Ksenia remained silent. Zoya Makarovna settled into an armchair, took out her phone, and began to type a message to someone. Oleg emerged from the bedroom and pecked his mother on the cheek. Quote 7, quote 8. Lyudmila arrived 20 minutes later, bringing a homemade Napoleon cake and a bottle of champagne. Zoya Makarovna followed her with her gaze from the doorway to the table. Quote 9. Lyudmila smiled, but Ksenia noticed a twitch in her mother's cheekbone. Zoya Makarovna enjoyed making subtle remarks about her own busyness. She worked as an administrator at a beauty salon, or rather, she called herself a manager, although the salon only had 3 beauticians, and herself. Her schedule was flexible, her salary $30,000, but she spoke of her job as if she managed a corporation. Nastya, her husband Vitaly, and their 3-year-old son Misha arrived at 6. They sat down at the table precisely at 7, with the clock chiming still far off. But Zoya Makarovna declared she was very tired and wanted to eat. The first half hour went smoothly. They clinked glasses, they ate. Misha smeared Olivier salad all over his face. Lyudmila shared a funny story about a neighbor. Vitaly told jokes. Zoya Makarovna tried the duck and grimaced. "Still a bit dry, I told you so." Ksenia clenched her fork. Oleg remained silent, pouring himself more vodka. Zoya Makarovna noticed a small jar of black caviar on the table, 100 grams. Ksenia had bought it at a premium supermarket for $2,000, wanting to make the celebration special. "Wow, caviar," her mother-in-law exclaimed, spreading a thick layer on a piece of bread. "Oleg, you must have gotten a bonus, or Ksyusha splurged." Oleg chuckled and drank another shot. His cheeks turned rosy. "Ksyusha got a promotion. She's the head of the department now." Really? Zoya Makarovna raised her eyebrows. What about those who worked there before? You only joined recently. 3 years ago, Ksenia corrected. Well, 3 years isn't much seniority. They usually promote those who've toiled for 10 years. Ksenia felt something constrict inside her. She had indeed been promoted to head of the lending department a month ago. It was the result of 2 years of hard work, overtime, and exceeding her targets by 140%. But Zoya Makarovna always knew how to turn any achievement into a reason for doubt. Ksyusha is just wonderful, Lyudmila interjected calmly. She's the best specialist in the branch. Of course, I'm not arguing. It's just strange that it happened so quickly. Usually there's a queue. Competition. Oleg poured himself more. His face turned red. His eyes gleamed. Ksenia grew wary. When her husband drank more than usual, he became unpredictable. He could be rude, he could cry, he could start saying nasty things he wouldn't remember later. Yes, strange, he drawled, looking at his plate. Very strange. Oleg, Ksenia said quietly. He looked up at her, a flicker of anger in his eyes. What is it, Oleg? Strange? 3 people worked under you, all with seniority, and you got promoted. Because I meet the targets, and they don't. Well, yes, targets. Or perhaps you met them in a different way. What are you talking about, Oleg? _quote_29_ I'm not talking about anything. I'm just stating the facts. The facts. Are you serious right now? What's wrong? Oleg leaned back in his chair, his gaze unfocused. Everyone knows how promotions are given out, especially to women. Your boss is a man, don't worry. Shut up. I won't. I'm tired of staying silent. Oleg, if you don't shut up, I'm going to... All this black caviar on the table, it's because my wife slept with her superiors for her new position. Silence descended. Nastia inhaled sharply. Vitaly froze. Misha continued to poke at his salad with a spoon. Zoya Makarovna just smirked, as if she'd been waiting for this all evening. Ksenia stood there, unable to move. Her husband's words felt like a slap in the face. Her ears rang. She saw her mother-in-law's malicious face, Oleg's drunken countenance, Nastia's confusion. And then she heard a rustle. Lyudmila stood up slowly, heavily, as if rising not from a chair, but from a trench. Son-in-law, she began quietly, but her voice was steely. Perhaps your mother would prefer to tell everyone about the brothel she was recently fired from? Zoya Makarovna froze. Her face contorted. Her smile stiffened and began to slowly slip away. What? She stammered. You heard me, Zoya. Oleg stirred, tried to stand, and swayed. Lyudmila Viktorovna, what are you saying? My mother works at a beauty salon. Oleg, sit down, Lyudmila commanded sternly. He tried to move towards her and she raised her hand. Don't come near me. Mom, what is she saying? It's nonsense. She made it up to... I made nothing up, Lyudmila said calmly, but each word fell like a stone. My friend works in the police. In October, they raided an establishment on Suvorova Street, number 34. It was called Relax Studio. That's where your mother really was an administrator. Not of a beauty salon, but a den of iniquity. She recruited girls, met clients, collected money. When they raided it, everyone was detained, but your mother was released due to lack of evidence. She wasn't providing services herself, only acting as a go-between. Nastia gasped. Vitaly dropped his fork. Oleg opened his mouth, unable to utter a word. Zoya Makarovna sprang from her seat, her face contorted. Lies! You're lying. Quote 48. This? Where did you get that photograph from the official report? Quote 49. My friend showed it to me for information. I kept quiet because I thought, well, people make mistakes, it happens. But after what you've allowed yourself to say about my daughter all these months, after the way you smirked today while your little son was slandering my girl, enough is enough. Mom, Nastya looked at Zoya Makarovna in horror. Is that true? Zoya Makarovna trembled. Her face flushed crimson, then turned pale, her lips quivering. I didn't. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. Quote 5-4. You worked there for 3 months. A friend lured you there, promising big money. You agreed without even considering what kind of place it was. And by the time you realized, it was too late. But you didn't quit because they paid well, $70,000 a month. Convenient to work without effort, to look down on others, to call yourself a manager. Be quiet, Zoya Makarovna shrieked. Be quiet right now. Oleg stood in the middle of the room, swaying, trying to say something. He lurched towards Lyudmila, attempting to cover her mouth with his hand, but she pulled away. Don't touch me, son-in-law, or I might have something to tell you about yourself, too. About me? About you? About how you owe $130,000 to 2 microloan companies. How collectors call you every week, and you ignore them. How you borrowed money from Ksenia's colleague, promised to return it in a week, but 3 months have passed, and you haven't even apologized. Do you want your mother to know where that bonus you supposedly received last year went? You blew it at the casino in one evening. So Oleg, quote 61, tell us what a wonderful husband you are, how you work as a loader at a warehouse, earn $40,000 and manage to blow half of it on gambling, how Ksenia pays the mortgage, utilities, food, your mother, to whom you send $5,000 from Ksenia's salary every month without asking, and then you accuse your wife of infidelity to get a promotion. You're just jealous, you pathetic human. Don't you dare, she hissed. Don't you dare touch my mother. Grandma, Mom, wait. What are you doing? Quote 66, Quote 67, You just accused me of cheating in front of everyone. You called me a whore. Quote 68, I didn't say that. You said worse. You said I slept with my boss. Well, how else do you explain that you got promoted and others didn't? Because I work, not sit on my backside like you. I'm tired of tolerating your mother, your reproaches, your whining. You bring nothing but debt into this house. I work for $40,000. Who are you living off? Who pays the mortgage? Who paid for today's feast? Quote 73, try touching her. Quote 74, try it, and let's see what happens. He lowered his hand, swayed, and fell back onto the chair, covering his face with his palms. I didn't mean to say that, I didn't know. You knew, Ksenia said. You always knew I wasn't cheating, but it was easier for you to accuse me than to admit you're just a failure. Lyudmila took her daughter's hand. Pack your things. Let's go to my place. Mom? Pack ... Quote _80 _kshush. Wait ... quote _81 mom. Wait ... quote _82 mom. How did you know all that? Quote _83 about Zoya Makarovna. It's true. 6 months ago, my friend Galia told me. I didn't want to interfere. I thought it was their business. But when I realized she was poisoning you, I decided to keep the information. I knew it would come in handy sooner or later. And about Oleg, it's also true. You told me yourself about the debts. I found out about the casino from a neighbor. Her son works there as a security guard. He saw Oleg. Ksenia closed her eyes. Something in her chest squeezed and unsqueezed, making it hard to breathe. 2 years of marriage. 2 years she had thought they were a family, that Oleg was just going through a difficult period, that he needed support, that things would eventually get better. But nothing got better. He only got worse, and she was blind. Idiot. Yes, she whispered. No, Lyudmila replied firmly. You're a person who wanted to believe in the best, but now you know the truth. I'm filing for divorce, she said simply. Kshush, please forgive me. It's too late. You crossed the line. I didn't want to. You wanted to. You wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone so your mother could triumph, so everyone would think I was dirty, and you were the victim, and you got what you wanted. Now you'll face the consequences. "Hello, Ksenia, it's Nastya." She hadn't heard her former sister-in-law's voice in a year. "Hi, sorry to call. I just wanted to tell you, Oleg got married to a girl from work. She's 21. I understand. Thanks for letting me know. His mother is living with them now. The girl is in shock, but Oleg said there's no other way. They have no money. His mother can't find work anywhere else after that incident. And what do you want me to say, Nastya? Nothing. Just that you were right. Forgive me for staying silent back then. _98_. It's in the past. Goodbye. Good luck." Ksenia hung up, walked to the window, and looked down. The city lived its own life, bustling and endless. Somewhere out there, Oleg was trying to build a new family on the ruins of the old. Somewhere out there, Zoya Makarovna was weaving intrigues again, poisoning the life of a new victim. She was here, in her office, in her apartment, in her life, free from lies, free from humiliation, free from whining on the sofa. There was a knock on the door, and her secretary entered. "Ksenia Igorevna, the meeting is in 10 minutes. I'm coming." She picked up a folder of documents. On the table, among the papers, lay a small jar of black caviar, a gift from her colleagues for her last birthday. Ksenia ran her finger over it and smiled. This caviar was on her table thanks to her, and her alone.